All right. Well, hello there, and welcome back to the Quality Matters Daily Dive brought to you by Texas Quality Assurance, where quality management gets simplified. Today, we are going to be talking about the process start to finish for getting certified. Obviously, we're not going to cover every intricacy and nuance in here. Though I do want to let you know that we are considering putting out a series of additional QMS Bootcamp videos. For those of you that aren't familiar, QMS Bootcamp is a 4-day training course that we've put together here at Texas Quality Assurance over the past several years. And the QMS Bootcamp is really intended to get folks acclimated to the world of quality management. So we know that there's a ton of, very specialized courses out there, from internal auditing, project management, Lean, Six Sigma, really diving into the minutiae. We want to hit kind of the broad spectrum. So if you're looking to learn more about the whole process in depth, in detail, let's talk about the QMS Bootcamp. But for today, we're going to be taking a look at this consultation process start to finish. Now, full disclosure, I'm actually going to be showing you some of our marketing materials here, but we've got a great timeline on here. So regardless if you intend to use our services or not, fantastic information will benefit you either way. So let me throw this up on the screen here. All right, so management system compliance consultation. Now, let me get through here. This is our Jumpstart package. We're going to go ahead and skip over this one, and we're going to go to what we call our end-to-end consultation solution. Now, again, this is not just a pitch for the work we do. I swear, it's just a good timeline to understand what needs to happen and really kind of how you need to break this down in phases. Okay. The first phase of any project, whether implemented by us, implemented by yourself, some other consultation company out there, there's just only so many ways to skin a cat. So, which skinning a cat, weird phrase, skinned other animals, not a cat, but that's a whole other thing. You kind of guess that by the Texas flag, probably. But phase one is project plan and gap assessment. Okay, so in the project plan and gap assessment plans in place, I'm guilty of it myself, is you see all of the details that have to be done from point A to point Z and the 1,000 decision points in there. And by the time you make this plan, you've gone to Visio and you've got all these decision points and it's sprawling and spreading everywhere. It's nothing anyone can understand. It can't be written on a single page. So that's my challenge to you. Write your plan for ISO or API or whatever certification you're going for. Let's write this plan start to finish one page. You don't get more than one page for it. Your project plan, one page. Now, beyond that, you can start to break it out a little bit separately. So when you break it out a little bit separately, what you're going to do is you're going to want to identify for each of these steps that you've identified in your project plan, you want to identify what's the goal of the step. Very, very important. If you can't say what the goal is, what we hope to achieve at the end, you've missed the mark somewhere. When the goal cannot be clearly defined, there is always a lack of understanding. Another way to know if there's lack of understanding is if you or anyone else in the meeting says, well, we just have to. That word just, that's a real funny word. Just pay attention in your everyday conversations with folks. No one uses the word just when they have clarity and understanding of a topic. Just is always used when there's lack of clarity, lack of understanding, to reinforce their clarity and understanding of the topic. It's something we all do unconsciously. Just pay attention to it. But we need a project plan. Make it a page long. And I'm going to give you some of the basics of what needs to be in there. So let's get back to this. I'll change it there. All right, so phase one is project plan and gap assessment. The gap assessment is actually really pretty standard. There's not a whole lot to it. There's tons of gap assessment forms out there. We may actually wind up putting out one of our own tools. But what you're going to want to do, let me see if I can pull up a copy of one of the standards here. Probably don't want a French copy of the 45,001 standard. That wouldn't be very helpful. So let's go ahead. Here we go. I've got the ISO 9001 here. I'm sorry, ISO 14,001. Sorry, trying to open up documents on the fly. The gap assessment is really pretty straightforward. You need to know which clauses of the standard are auditable. It changes depending on API, so forth and so on. But for most ISO standards, clause 4 and beyond are auditable. And you're going to go through here, clause 4. Do we have any evidence? And all you're looking for, do we have anything? Do we have anything for showing context of organization? Document information is key. Understanding needs, expectations. Okay, do we have any documentation for leadership and commitment? You're just going to go through top level clause. Honestly, for the most part, you don't even need to dig into the standard for your gap assessment. Just take the title, take the contents here. And do we have anything for it? Do we have anything? Do we have anything? Do we have anything? If yes, tell me the document. If no, hey, it's a no. That's it. It's pretty straightforward. But that's the basics of your gap assessment. The gap assessment really isn't this involved, intense audit. Okay, so let me get the timeline back up here. So that's your project plan. That's your gap assessment. These two are kind of done hand in hand. What are we going to look at? You do the gap assessment. You revise the plan. Cool. Now we know the areas where we have nothing, the areas where we have something, areas we feel good, areas that scare us, to death. Okay, we got a plan. It's a page long. Then you're going to want to go, like I say, and take each of those steps in there. We're going to want to identify the goal. And we're going to want to identify key deliverables. What do we expect to have completed when finished? We need a procedure for this. We need a form for this. We need work instructions for this. We need to train employees on this. We need this. Well, what are all the deliverables you expect from that step? You've got a plan you can work with. Just like any other work instruction, it may need to be redlined. It may need to be revised and edited. You may need to circle back and redo some work. Not a problem, but you know where you're circling back to. You know what your goal was to begin with, what your deliverables were, and now you can make an educated change to that system. Phase 2, document and information development. I cannot stress how incredibly important this is. If you attempt to build a management system and do not first put the necessary process procedures in place, you failed. You might think, well, Kyle, don't we need a manual? Now, a manual is not always explicitly required, and a manual is a good tool. I would not suggest starting with a manual. Your manual should honestly contain no unique information beyond maybe a copy of the policy or objectives, if that's where you choose to put them. Otherwise, the manual is a brief regurgitation of all of the other key processes of your business. The manual is going to outline the system. It's a little hard to write the manual until you've got your procedures in place. But we're going to identify all of the process procedures that we need to write internally. Okay, so when you do that, you're going to identify some of the key processes in here. And some of those key processes are going to be document information itself. That's a big one. One of the first ones we need to write. How are we going to review? Who's going to approve? Where's the archive copy going to be kept? How do we handle revision control? How do we handle retraining? You're going to have all of that in there. Others, identification of non-conforming outputs, non-conformities, corrective actions, calibration, supplier management, and your production and service provision, which we like to offer as a top-level procedure. And then from there, break out into sub-operational procedures. I can't tell you what those are going to be because I don't know your business in specific, but maybe we have one on welding, testing, and acceptance. Maybe we have one on welder competence and qualification. Maybe we have one on inspection and testing. Maybe we have one on, collecting the requirements for design and development to hand over to engineering team. You're going to have to kind of design and map these out, but that's a huge part of your document information development. You're just going to spend time writing, revising, reviewing, revise, review, revise, review. Eventually, after about a month or two of this process, you're going to be ready to have what we call an approval party. And you're going to sit down with all of the key members of your team, management, supervisors, department heads, and you're going to say, look, guys, if we're going to live, breathe, and die by these procedures, does it make sense to our business? If yes, fantastic. If no, let's make some revisions and go at it again. But that's your document information development. A lot of folks argue that phase 2 and phase 3 here should be done in tandem, and I largely disagree. You really need to get that base of document and information in place to begin with. A couple reasons. One, I know human nature. Human nature is going to be, well, I'll finish writing that after we get this done, and then it's 3 months later and you've not finished. Another reason might be that you simply need to know all of those document numbers ahead of time. Let's say you're doing your production and service provision procedure, and you're writing out some specific details for your operations process. Maybe you do heat treatment, maybe you do inside or on-site inspection, whatever the case may be. You're going to need to reference a procedure for competence and training. Well, if you don't have that document number yet, man, it's really hard to reference. Same thing with control of non-conforming outputs, corrective actions. When you're identifying responsibilities within your procedure, you have to know these things. So you really can't do these two in tandem. Unfortunately, I'm seeing a lot more talk from consultants out there. And honestly, I believe this is because it's the buzzwords and it sounds great. And we're such a new technical age. People are using terms like agile development. Okay. Got a software development background. Agile is a software development cycle. So there are others as well. And the particular development method you use matters. So in Agile, the idea is that we can shift back and forth between steps. We can run parallel processes, and it sounds great. But not all processes can be implemented that way. Not all systems can be implemented that way. And a management system is really a difficult one for an Agile implementation. If we're going to use the software development lingo, this is going to be what we call a waterfall process. You get this step done, then you move to the next step, then you move to the next step, then you move to the next step. Documented information, we need to know the procedures we want up front, identify the titles, and move on from there. Okay. Then we're going to talk about our training implementation. So you've got your procedures written, you've got them approved, you go into training and implementation. You train everyone that needs that procedure on the details of the procedure. Pretty straightforward, I think. Then what you're going to do is you are going to actually watch it be worked. And you're going to come back and review, how well is this working? What issues are we having? If you're reporting nonconformities, you got great data to identify that. Then we will follow the PDCA cycle, plan, do, check, act. We're now in the do phase. We're going to go back and make a revision to our plan. Now, again, this is not the Agile method. This is a process method. This is our following that PDCA cycle, and that is how we develop our management systems. We plan, do, check to revise in our action, or our action tells us to continue to go forward. So training implementation. And the last phase is our audit management review workshop. So we want to get that audit conducted, the internal audit against all processes, maintaining objectivity. That's a tough one, especially from us small business folks out there. If you're in a small business, you probably wear 5-6 hats. It's really difficult to do your own internal audit and maintain that objectivity. There are options, as with Texas Quality Assurance, for outsourcing that audit, or you could do like I did the first time I got a previous company certified. I trained 5 other folks internally to be auditors because I developed everything. I couldn't audit my own work. So there are ways around it. One thing I want to talk about here, just real quick, let me zoom out just a little, is how long do these phases take? I would argue phase 1, we want to spend probably a month to 6 weeks on, honestly. Don't rush it. Take your time. Phase 2 here, document information development. Well, what we're looking at here, this may be really a 3-month process, at least 2 months internally for you. So all in all, phase 1 and phase 2 is about a 3-month process. Phase 3, implementation and training. We probably realistically want to take another 2 or 3 months here to watch, observe, revise, really got to stay on top of it. You might think, well, hey, Kyle, like we kind of knocked out everything here. Only so much. This is where we're getting our training records. This is where our suppliers are being approved. This is where we're checking all of our calibrations. We're doing day-to-day checks, weekly checks, walkthroughs, you name it. They're all very packed activities. The last one here, the internal audit management review workshop. That's at least about a 1-month-long process as well. From the time you get the internal audit plan written, the audit conducted, you want another week or 2 in between doing the management review to kind of think, assess, gather ideas, and then conduct that management review. Once that management review is completed and you have your corrective actions written, because there will be findings, there always are, there will be things management wants to do better at, should be always. These are continual improvement opportunities, a requirement by the standard, by the way. Then you're going to be ready for certification. So let's talk about certification here. So we recommend working with DECRA, course, you can use any certification body you want. Do advise to check them out, scrutinize them. Unfortunately, there's what are certificate mills out there. It's a nasty part of the industry. If you want to learn more, I'll be happy to let you know, get you connected with some resources to learn more about it as well. Our friends over at Oxbridge Resources would be fantastic to talk to you if you have any questions about your particular certification body and if they're legit or not. Unfortunately, it's just the case. But let's say you've got a good certification body, someone like DECRA, NSF, Bureau Veritas. We love these guys. So let's talk about stage 1 audit. Your first year getting certified, you're going to go through 2 audits. You're going to be stage 1 audit. Sometimes they call this a readiness review, a document review. The terms kind of change a little bit, but the stage 1 audit is just a checklist. What we're doing in this is looking to see, do we have what we need to get certified? Do we have the documents in place? Stage 2 is we're going to review the documentation previously presented and say, hey, are you living up to it? That's year 1. Once stage 2 is finished, you respond to any findings, you're ready to get certified. They start processing and issuing the certificate. Then you've got an audit the next 2 years. So with year 1, year 2, year 3. Year 2 and 3, I'll make sure I'm not accidentally flipping anyone off there. So year 2 and 3 are surveillance audits. So some things are going to get reviewed every year. For instance, we're going to look at the internal audit report every year. We're going to look at the management review every year. We're going to be looking at the basics of document information every year. But maybe this year we're looking at suppliers, and the next year we're looking at calibrations. Maybe this year we're looking at non-conformance reports, and next year we're looking at corrective action reports. So these things are going to kind of trade off a little bit. So you get kind of a mini audit on year 2, and then the rest that we didn't get on year 3. Then on year 4, you have what's called a recertification cycle, and it goes in this 3-year cycle over and over and over and over. And year 4 is a recertification audit, and this is effectively everything we did in stage 1 and stage 2, but all jam-packed into one audit, followed by surveillance 1, surveillance 2, and recertification, on until the end of time. So that's the basics of what it takes to get certified. There's a lot to it, but it doesn't need to be this amazingly overly complex project. It is all very, very doable. Now, for anyone looking for help for this, I want to let you know we are running a special this summer. Contact me. I can let you know some more information. It's over LinkedIn, but we're definitely offering a special this summer if you're looking for certification support, getting you a lot of money off up front to get it done. We've only got 5 spaces available, and as of the time this airs, we may only have 3 available. So let me know if you need any information. You feel free to contact me directly. Find us on LinkedIn, find us on the website. But most of all, I hope that you have taken something away here that is useful, that you can put to work in your organization, save time and energy for what matters most to you. Take care, guys.